I'm Lynette Zanders of Wild Alchemy. I solve problems for businesses, brands, and their leaders. I'm a coach, I'm a market researcher, I'm a speaker, an author. Anyway, I like to put my ideas out there, and I believe they're helpful, and I hope they will be for you too. This particular video is around Feng Shui, which I've heard, if you say it correctly, Feng Shui sounds a little bit naughty. It's a Eastern philosophy. It's about moving things around your space, whether your office, your home, or your business, in such a way that it brings prosperity, at least the one that I'm going to teach you. You don't have to believe in it for it to work. It's a little bit like insurance. It's like, why would you not have it? I've done this for multiple businesses, many agencies. I can't say that it was the one thing that turned things around for them, but I will say that I don't do any other work with them if they won't let me feng shui their space, because it just won't stick. I'll give you an example. I was working with a nonprofit that had a huge space warehouse that was completely jam-packed with old binders and materials that they hadn't used in years. And I said, this thing has to get cleaned out. It's keeping things the way they've always been, and nothing we do with the brand or the business or the culture is going to work until we clean out this warehouse, which was a huge undertaking. We're talking tons of stuff, literally. And they did, and it did, and everything stuck and everything worked, and they actually held their first Christmas party in their own space without renting an outside space. I have loads of examples I'll give you. I will just tell you from the bottom of my heart that I believe it works. And if nothing else, it's going to make your space feel better. And with the amount of time we're spending in our spaces, they should feel better. So let me give you just an overview. This is really high level, but it's what I find to be the most important bits that you can change that will bring positive energy, abundance, prosperity into your life. All right, hang tight. All right. Feng Shui is the art of designing your space to flourish. So let me give you a quick overview. So it really is about balancing energy to create, to bring your intentions to life and to create optimal flow of energy, life energy, which in Chinese philosophy they call qi, spelled qi, but it's qi. The thing about intention is that you have to be really specific. And I always love this quote from Tammy Faye Baker. When I was little, I used to pray over and over again, God, please make my life interesting. I realize now I should have been much more specific. So if you don't have a specific intention, let's start there. I've got a whole other video on defining success. I think there's a definite art to it, as evidenced by our friend Tammy. So every space in your house, but basically if you're doing this for your office, you're going to take the office as a space. If you're doing this for your home, you're going to take your entire home as a space. And this is called a Bagua map, can be overlaid over your entire space. So you stand at the front entrance. So if you're standing in your front door with your belly button into the room, your upper left-hand corner is going to be your wealth corner. Your upper right-hand corner is going to be your love, marriage, relationship corner. And I think most everything else sorts itself out if you can figure out how to baby those areas. And the front entrance, babying this space, is going to be huge as well. I'll give you a quick example. So the first place we start is, and this is a workbook, by the way, and I can send this to you. So I'll let you know that at the end. This was a house that I lived in at 9/11, and I got 6 months off I didn't expect. And if I drew the outside walls of my house, making sure that I made an accurate indent where it was supposed to be a patio that was never finished. So my outside walls, my house was completely square, except for this one area that was supposed to be a patio off the kitchen that wasn't finished. It was off the ground. So it was noticeable. The idea is that you want to invite chi in your front door and have it move around your space. Primarily have it come into your love corner and have your intention set up with artifacts. I'll explain that, and make sure it gets all the way to your wealth corner. And there are artifacts there that are specific to abundance. So what I found was the space that I had in my house was my wealth corner. I made absolutely no money. I had to refinance my car to pay the heat bill that year. So what I ended up doing was pretending that those walls were there. I honored those walls. So those little green circles are plants, potted plants. That red triangle is what I call the Feng Shui garden, where all my rocks that I collected throughout my travels. Yeah, I do that. I had dragons. I had my little signs that say grow strong and create, and everything that kind of felt like abundance to me. I had my little shiny rocks. My plants had to be in really good shape. And then eventually I did a patio paver stone. I put in a trellis. I planted wisteria. It became this glorious area. And I'll jump ahead to the end. Every year, it took me about 3 years to get that finished, but immediately I got a job. And every year I did something to that corner, my income doubled. I've done this to every house I've lived in and every client that I've had. So this is just one quick example. So how do you baby these corners? Rule of thumb is you use something from the 4 elements: earth, wind, fire, or water. You can augment these, and should probably, with crystals, photos, things that you love. I'll give you some examples. But for your wealth corner, they should be things that speak to abundance. So a jade plant, for example, it's a symbol of wealth in certain places. It's hard to kill. So having that in your wealth corner, I find, can be hugely impactful. Wind could be wind chimes. You could have candles for fire. You can have a fountain or a fishbowl for water. And in your relationship corner, things that come in pairs. So candlesticks, bookends, pictures of 2 people as opposed to 1, pictures of lush greenery as opposed to a desert. Kind of get the idea. It's almost overt. I'll give you another example. So when I kind of audited my house for Feng Shui, I found that I had my very first piece of original art in my wealth corner, just so happened to be there. So my definition of wealth was to have real art instead of IKEA posters. What ended up happening was I had a really bad house guest. So I went to the pound and I said, no border collies, no puppies. But we packed home a border collie puppy. And it was the best dog we ever had. And in some senses, having a dog that required exercise was, I don't know, a symbol of wealth. I had the time, I had the energy. But check this out. He looked exactly like my blue dog. So could be a coincidence if you believe in those kinds of things. But you get what you ask for. So here's the sum. Have a very specific intention. If you don't know how to define success for yourself, watch the next video. Make sure you write it down and you have a litmus test for how. So it's, what do you want to have happen and how will you know when you get there? Draw the outside walls of your space. If it's just your office, then you've got 1 door in and 4 walls, right? But where's the window? You shouldn't have the window behind you, but you also should be able to see the door. It's the seat of power. So moving your furniture around, or sometimes I've had clients that just had to put a rear view mirror or a mirror on their desk so that they could see the door. Because if the door is behind you, then things can sneak up on you. If the window is behind you, you're vulnerable. There are ways to augment that with crystals or plants or any of the things I've just told you. Use your intuition. There's very little wrong. Sometimes there's a trash can in the wealth corner. best to move it. Sometimes you have a bathroom in your wealth corner. I've had that happen. And you have to just make sure that all of your lids are closed, like your toilet lid and your drain, or your money will go right down the drain or right down the toilet. So it really is just about that intention. So augment your space to love on your wealth corner and your love corners. Do it outside if need be. Outside your home can have as big an impact as inside your home. Audit and augment what you have in your critical spaces. And then clear the air, literally. And you can supercharge it with crystals. So clear the air with sage, burning sage, going around your house and releasing all the old negative stale energy. But you have to mentally or out loud say what your intention is so that you fill that space with your new intention. And I hadn't really talked about this, but your front entry is kind of critical. So making sure clutter is a chi killer. So if there are leaves outside your front door or shoes, or if that's a cluttered space, clear it out inside and outside. And then red invites chi. So if it's a red welcome mat, red wreath on your door, paint your door red. Honestly, when I painted my door red to my office, I got 5 calls that day. Were the biggest jobs I ever had. Again, if you believe in coincidences, amazing. But if you don't, painting your door red can invite chi into your life. I put a Chinese coin above my door, kind of invites that in. So no clutter, red, and crystals or bells or something that clears the air. I used to have a bell outside my door. Every time I walked in, I'd ring the bell because it would clear the energy in and out. And that was a lovely house. So if you have questions, email me. Happy to chat. This is one of the things that I love. If you liked this video, please share it with people you think who might be interested. I have lots of other topics. Please dive in, and I hope it helps. Thanks.